Welcome to Hannity. We begin tonight in Martha's Vineyard, which is descending tonight into chaos. For years, this ultra-wealthy liberal enclave featured signs like this all over the town. Look closely. It reads, quote, "We stand with immigrants and refugees. All are welcome here." So yesterday, Florida Governor Ron DeSantis sent 50 illegal immigrants on chartered planes to Massachusetts so they could take advantage of the inclusive environment that they claim is Martha's Vineyard and what they have to offer. But as it turns out, well, the elite residents there are not actually all that inclusive. They are not all that welcoming. And they don't really stand with the immigrants and refugees, and now they want them gone. Take a look.
The difficult challenges are we have, at some point in time, they have to move from here to somewhere else, right? We don't have the services to take care of 50 immigrants, and we certainly don't have housing. We're in a housing crisis as we are on this island, and so we can't house everyone here that lives here and works here. We don't have housing for 50 more people.
Now, for years, I've always said liberals are generous with other people's money. In this particular case, they're all, let's see, pro-immigrant and sanctuary cities, but not their city. They have to move from here to somewhere else. They can't be here. Only 50 people. Remember, Arizona, Texas, they're dealing with millions. They don't have space for 50 migrants, not in any of the beautiful homes in Edgartown, not in any of the palatial beachfront estates dotting the island, not even where Obama has a 7-bedroom, 8-bathroom, 7,000 square feet, 30-acre vacation home, probably sitting empty as we speak. What, no guests allowed? No illegal immigrants? Why don't we build on 12 of the acres a tent city for illegal immigrants? They have 30 acres. That's a lot of acreage. Now, keep in mind, nearly 80% of the island's residents are hardcore Democrats. They voted for Obama. They voted for Biden. They support open borders. They support sanctuary cities and states. And yet, just 50 migrants later, and the entire island has now entered into a full-blown state of panic, racism, according to their definition, and xenophobia. And, of course, they're blaming Republicans and Ron DeSantis for their inner rage. They can't handle that they were exposed. Take a look.
To ship families here, children here, on a lie and use them as political pawns is a truly inhumane thing to do.
We woke up to the news this morning that Governor Ron DeSantis of Florida sent 2 plane loads of migrants to Martha's Vineyard off the coast of Massachusetts, including kids and whatnot. And I'm not saying this is not a one-for-one. This is not a parallel here in any way. But it does address some of the same themes that are part of this documentary.
Well, it's the abstraction of human life.
I get they're trying to make a point, but these are people you're playing with. These are real live people with children and older people, and we can work it out. But if you're going to be a bonehead, who wants to play with you?
Joe Biden has been flying illegal immigrants in the dark of night to every state in the country. One local state rep tweeted, quote, "Republicans who call themselves Christians have been plotting for some time to use human lives as political pawns. It is evil. It is inhumane." Who knew Martha's Vineyard was such an inhumane place to be? And meanwhile, California Governor Gavin Newsom is calling for the DOJ now to arrest Governor Ron DeSantis for kidnapping. Governor, I know you're not particularly bright, but if you want to go down this road, we'll play. And your sanctuary state is not abiding by federal law. Joe Biden and his sanctuary policies for the U.S., that's not abiding by the law of the land. You're both aiding and abetting law breaking, and you're both involved in human trafficking. So if Merrick Garland did not weaponize the DOJ, both of you would probably be arrested. And by the way, with good cause. Now, keep in mind, for more than a year, the Biden administration has been flying thousands and thousands of migrants all over the country. You know, those secret 2 a.m. flights, regional airports in the dark of night, dozens of states. This includes 70 late-night flights from the border to Florida. Oh, so that inhumane treatment happened to Ron DeSantis in his state. The administration is now clearly attempting to quietly resettle the roughly 3 million, I repeat, 3 million illegal immigrants who have poured across our southern border since Joe Biden's inauguration. In July alone, nearly 200,000 illegal immigrants entered Texas, Arizona, California illegally. And remember, these are the people who were apprehended by Border Patrol. So we have no idea how many more may have entered the country undetected. By the way, we're also getting people on terror watch lists that are being caught, and some are getting by. That is not good for the country's security. But we do know that while the spoiled liberal virtue signaling residents of Martha's Vineyard are freaking out over 50 illegal immigrants, border towns and states are in an actual state of crisis. They have had to deal with millions of illegal immigrants, not 50. And tonight, the city of El Paso is totally and completely overwhelmed with around 1,000 illegal immigrants now sleeping on the streets, no access to toilets, showers, clean clothes. The city's congressman called it apocalyptic, according to the left. What you're seeing here is totally fine, but what, sending 50 migrants to Martha's Vineyard is evil and inhumane, and we can't take a few of the 30 acres that Barack Obama has and turn it into a tent city? Now, tonight, Bill Malugin is reporting that even the Democrats in charge of El Paso just approved a $2 million contract to bust these migrants out of town for the next 16 months, including to New York City, another sanctuary city. So let's be clear. When the Democrats of El Paso or Governor Abbott or the governor of Arizona or the governor of Florida bust migrants to, let's say, oh, that's right, Kamala's D.C. mansion or the White House or New York or Chicago or Martha's Vineyard, they're trying to draw attention to what they have had to deal with, and that is Joe Biden's policy of not enforcing the law of the land, aiding and abetting law-breaking, and actually giving preferential treatment to illegal immigrants. It's a dire crisis. Some people are dying because they are coming here. And by the way, it's made worse by the Democrats far away from the border. They're more than happy to ignore and lecture the rest of the country. In fact, not only is the White House refusing to address Biden's border crisis, they're not even willing to admit there's a problem. Take a look.
Does the White House stand by those comments that the border is secure?
What we stand by is that we are doing everything that we can to make sure that that we follow the process that's been put forth. That's why we have historic funding to do just that, to make sure that to make sure that the folks that we encounter at the border be removed or expelled.
Well, Karine Jean-Pierre is really bad at her job, but that is what it is. She knows what's happening at the border, and she knows it looks really bad. She also knows that her boss, Joe Biden, is not going to do anything about it except lie to the American people, because both Joe Biden and Kamala Harris don't seem to care about the suffering on either side of the border. And just last week, Kamala said our border is secure. That's an outright lie. They don't seem to care about the human smuggling, the drug smuggling, the fentanyl, or the opioid crisis. And according to them, securing the border and finishing the wall is racist. So here we are with a crisis that is spiraling out of control, and they're in full, complete denial, and they're aiding and abetting in the law-breaking. Hey, Sean Hannity here. Hey, click here to subscribe to Fox News YouTube page and catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis. You will not get it anywhere else.